welcome to Some Good Tea, where we drink some tea and we share some tea. I'm your host, Katie, and today I'm being joined by Juan.
It has been a while.
It's been a long minute there.
Yeah, and I am super stoked because we've talked for a hot second about having a special episode where we talk about anime, and today is that day. It has finally arrived. I'm so stoked. We were already starting to completely nerd out before we started recording, and we're like, no.
We had to stop several times.
So we could start recording. And I've even saved a special anime-themed tea for this episode. It is by Jasmine Dragon Dehydrated Potions, coming in clutch. They have some really awesome nerdy-themed teas. And this is their Cactus Juice. If you know, you know. It is absolutely delicious. I highly recommend it. Go ahead and brew yourself some and drink it along with us while we talk about anime. We're going to be rolling our 20-sided dice and see what questions we get and how many tangents we end up on. How do you like the tea, Juan?
It's hot.
It's very hot. Yeah, we just barely steeped this.
But it is good. I do like it.
It'll quench you.
I don't know. Doesn't taste like cactus.
No! I have never actually tried, prickly pear cactus?
You've never had a cactus? Oh,
no.
Okay, so my mom essentially grew up in her teenage years, grew up in Mexico.
Oh, cool.
And there's, at that time, it was still a lot of desert and farmland.
Yeah.
Now it's just nothing but city.
Oh my gosh.
And they would just take the cactus right off of the cactus. You slice it off with your machete, and then
because they have big old spikes.
Yep, and she would just basically cook it on a what do you call it? Cast iron.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Spanish words kicking in.
Yeah.
So they would actually cook the cactus. She would dice it up and cook it even more, and then she would serve that to us as kids.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
It tastes horrible.
Okay. I always imagined prickly pear cactus tasting kind of
I think
like watermelon for some reason.
I think my mom was just terrible at cooking it. It's really good for you. It's really good for you, but it just.
I mean,
every time we saw it, it's like, no,
I've
it's not
seen
good.
it. You can buy it in stores depending on your location at the grocery store. I've seen jams made out of prickly pear cactus. I've always imagined it tasting kind of fruity, kind of watermelony for whatever reason in my brain. But
it's so slimy.
Ew.
It is slimy.
Okay.
The texture's so different.
Okay. One day I will try some prickly pear cactus, probably jam or something. But, this Cactus Juice tea has a lot of fruit in it. It does have some, pineapple and that type of vibes.
It's fruity.
It's very fruity. It's very sweet. I like to steep this tea very strong. Jasmine Dragon Dehydrated Potions teas are potent teas. They're very forward with their flavors. They're not shy.
No.
With their flavors. So if you like potent, strongly flavored teas, this is definitely the tea for you. We've had several of their other flavors on my podcast before, and so if you have friends like me who have not had tea before, or who've had teas and are like, oh, it's just watered down juice, it doesn't taste very good, introduce them to this tea first, and they will not complain anymore. It's very strongly flavored tea. I don't think this is intended to actually taste like actual
cactus.
Yeah.
It's just funny. That's all.
Yeah. So, do you want to roll the dice first?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. We're starting off pretty weak with an 8.
With an 8. That's okay. Oh, I'm actually super curious to know this answer for you. Have you ever been to an actual anime convention?
Straight up anime? No.
Okay.
I've always wanted to attend, though.
Yeah.
FanX is probably the closest thing to what I consider an anime convention.
FanX is pretty, like, I would consider it like a pretty even divide down the middle. Like, I think they do a really good job representing a broad spectrum of genres of just stuff TM.
Yeah.
Of just things that people are into, right? If you like anime, if you like Marvel, if you like Disney, if you like Star Wars, like whatever, right? They have a lot of things, but if you like anime, they do have a lot.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of artwork, a lot of really good representation, a lot of really good cosplayers, like some really awesome panels. Last year there were some really awesome great panels. Ones.
There was a panel dedicated specifically to anime you can watch with your parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of the anime that they suggested I've actually watched, and specifically Spy X Family is hilarious, and it is very, very baby friendly. And so I've got the wife to watch that with me, and even though it doesn't have like a really deep story to it like some of the other anime I've watched in the past, it's just really good introductory to anime.
Yeah. I didn't get to go to very many panels at this last FanX, and that does bum me out. It does bum me out. It kind of, for me, depends on the group of people that I go with and that type of thing, because I'm a crowd pleaser, and so I just... Like,
really?
Yeah, you couldn't tell.
No, actually, I wouldn't have known that. So
really, you could.
I mean, we went, but like.
Yeah, no.
It's interesting.
I would have very much loved to have gone to that panel because I was actually really curious about what their recommendations were. But I feel kind of the way about anime and introducing people to it the way I feel about tea. And introducing people to tea. Like, you kind of need to know which ones would fit people's likes and dislikes and stuff like that. And yeah, there's definitely ones that I would recommend over others and that type of thing. Anime is a complicated genre, and I don't think people really understand that. When they just think of it as like, oh, it's a cartoon. It's like, no.
Yeah. So I have very, very strong opinions about this. So when I met the wife,
yes,
she shared with me that she thinks back in the day that anime was just porn.
Oh no.
And so I didn't share with her how much anime I've watched in the past until about
makes me really
6.
sad.
I know, right? Until the 6-month mark of our marriage.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, I waited.
Wait. All through like dating, engagement.
We didn't discuss anything.
6
I didn't
months
share
into your marriage.
Yep. And I just like popped it up an episode, my favorite anime series, which is not I mean.
Whoa!
Yeah, it was very interesting because we started watching it and she's like, "Hey, what are we watching?" "Oh, I'm just a series I normally like to watch." And so she sat down and watched an episode and like, "I don't like it." I'm like, "Yeah, I could see why you don't like it. It's a lot of derogatory things. It's just because the kid is he's just a teenager. Like, he's 14 years old. Of course he's going to have some boy humor, you know?
What were you watching?
We're watching Yu Yu Hakusho.
Okay.
It's it's not one of. It is my all-time favorite series to watch. It's not something I like to always introduce right off the get-go. Yeah. Especially if you have zero knowledge on anime. I'll explain that show a little bit later, but with the wife, I've discovered that she needs to watch something a little bit more wholesome, a little less violent, a little less crude. Yeah. Basically just something more calm. Yeah. And so as we were talking, I started to educate her on anime. It's not porn. So yes,
Yeah.
there's a certain category of anime that is porn, and there are certain animes that has a lot of what I consider fan service.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's just like anything in the film industry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally anything in the film industry. Like any movie, any TV show could be rated R.
And some PG-13 movies are worse than rated R's.
Yeah, right? Anything could have a dirty scene in there, right? And so, gosh, that really bums me out. I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding about anime as far as like what it is as a genre, its history, its development, like.
It's a great way
Yeah.
of storytelling.
It really is. It really is. And it has grown so much. It has its own like subcategories and its own subgenres at this point. And you can really like look back and see how those have developed and how its own little tropes and things have developed and grown over time. Because like now you can see where there is some of the like classic things that you tend to see in like action anime shows versus more of the drama anime shows come from, and some of the older things and some of the newer things. And it's just like anything in the film industry, it has a rich history and it has a different way of conveying storytelling than classic Western filmmaking.
I completely agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I, growing up, going back to cartoons.
Yeah.
Cartoons was a great way to relieve stress. It's a great time to just have laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back in the older cartoons, such as like the Bugs Bunny era.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny.
They were just there to
OG Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
They are there to
The Looney Tunes.
entertain.
Yeah, they had no purpose. There was not really a story. It was just kind of goofy.
Correct.
Like
and then,
literal goofy. They're doing dorky, silly things. There wasn't development. There wasn't
growth.
There was just silly characters doing silly things. And that was it. And honestly, they were great.
Yes.
I still love those old shows.
And then you have some of the newer cartoons, and in my opinion, their animation styles is just disgusting. It's not there.
Yeah.
It's like they're and I understand why the animation style isn't up to par. It's because they don't have time. They're in a time crunch.
Yeah.
So they have to draw something that is very easy
Quick, fast.
Correct.
Especially there was that awkward time period where you didn't have the digital computing technology to fill in the gap. You had to literally hand draw everything. But the demand was there, and so you had to be putting out products really, really fast. But you didn't have the computing skills of digital animation yet to really produce products. And so there was this awkward time period where you had to produce these shows that you kind of lost along the way.
Yeah. And to add more into that, with anime, obviously you go more in the storytelling depths, and some anime are derived from manga or basically comics.
Yeah.
And there are some anime series out there that, because the manga was so popular, they created a show out of it. However, due to some of the show's popularity, and the manga takes a while to create and develop, there are certain series that hasn't quite finished yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the animation studios, because they see that this show has been very successful, they start putting in fillers in the episodes, which I absolutely hate fillers. There are certain time frames where it is valuable to have fillers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just having fillers because there's no materials, like the manga hasn't caught up yet, then you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And so I really like the animes that are coming out now that are based from the mangas, because they're actually waiting for the materials to come out. They're not just producing crap. They're producing real. Exactly.
It was actually written that way. It's actually been edited. We actually know this was intentional. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so cartoons are great. Anime's better, in my opinion.
And I think it kind of all boils down back to it's a difference of entertainment versus storytelling.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, pretty much anything can be storytelling versus entertainment, right? Like, look at TikTok, look at Instagram, look at YouTube. Like, there's so much stuff out there that's 30 seconds long or less that's entertaining and silly and funny and goofy. That fits into the entertaining category, that has, like, no real depth or anything, but it's very entertaining. And it gets a laugh, and it can fulfill our need to have that little spark in our day that we can share and connect with and then move on, right?
Yeah.
Cartoons on Saturday morning did that for us as kids, and we still have that today as adults in our weird, crazy modern society. But, like, storytelling is so much deeper and so different. And anime has always gone to that deeper level. Right? And within anime, I feel like there are, like, the more entertaining animes, and there are the deeper storytelling animes, and then there are the, like, even deeper ones, right? So there's a spectrum.
Let me clarify on deeper, because sometimes when we see deeper, like, what are we referring to? Deeper as in taking on topics that normal people don't have on a daily basis.
Yeah.
For example, like, what's popular these days? Racism. That's popular these days, right?
Yeah.
And so some anime does a better job of tackling on those issues, where they paint the picture of, like, this person, they are an alien. Here's probably a better example. Teen Titans. Mm-hmm. I consider that one as an anime, not necessarily as a cartoon.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, though. So with Teen Titans, there's a character, Starfire.
Uh-huh.
And in the series, I'm referring to the cartoon series. I'm not referring to the live action. I don't do very well with
transitioning.
Yeah,
That's
so
okay.
I like the cartoon version, the animated version. And so with Starfire, there's a specific episode where the villain just hates her kind.
Yeah.
And even to there's a time frame where the villain just, like, is basically about to die, but Starfire, even though she knows that he hates her
just for being
her,
like who she is,
exactly,
what she is.
she still is extending a hand to save him out.
Yep, I remember that.
You remember that? Okay,
I remember
perfect.
That. Exactly.
And so,
I can
but
see
it's
it
like,
in my head.
But it takes on topics like that in a way where it, like, educates people. Like, like, if you want to end this, just
end it.
End it.
Just end it. Be the change. Yeah. We should probably roll the dice and get other questions.
Yeah,
but I'm just, like, gonna keep going with this for 2 seconds. There was an anime that I watched, like, a couple months ago. It was on Netflix. It's called Drifting Home.
Haven't seen it.
It's so good. It's so freaking good. I love it so much. It gets you in all the feels. It's terrible. I love it so much. And like, it's just like a short, weird little story. There's a lot of animes that I bump into that are just short, weird little stories. I feel like a lot of anime just are just weird. And I love them so much for it because they're so weird. And they tell stories in a very different way than Western filmmaking, and I think that's part of why I'm drawn to them so much, because it gives me such a refreshing spin on the typical way for conveying emotion. It's just such a different outlook on the conveying of emotion through storytelling.
Yeah.
And this particular one was addressing things like suicide, depression, anxiety, like, and never directly talked about it. But it was very clear through the story that that's what it was talking about, and how to handle like grief, how to handle moving on, and it was these kids. It was these kids having this weird adventure, and it was awesome. Like, I absolutely loved it. Ugly cried through the whole thing, guys. The whole thing, the whole time I was just like, oh my gosh, this show. I highly recommend it. You should absolutely watch it. It's called Drifting Home. But dang, it's so good. It's so good. And I think that's part of what animes are able to do, is get into these spaces of emotion that we just don't in the way we tell stories in Western filmmaking. We just don't address emotion in the same way. We're either too direct, or we just don't talk about it at all. And I love the way they're able to get down in there and talk about those hard topics. It's beautiful.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on the beautiful part of portraying the messages.
Yeah.
The best way that I can actually summarize that is they show, not tell.
Yeah.
And so that's like the
don't know how they
beautiful
do it.
thing about a well-crafted anime or any storytelling series, is that they do a better job of showing rather than telling you.
Board.
With the showing is that you can have several different interpretations, and everyone can see something very different, even though it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But their interpretation is very
vastly different. Yeah, like you could probably go home and watch Drifting Home on Netflix tonight and call me up and be like, Katie, that is not what that show is about. That is not what that show is about at all. This is what I got from it. And I'd be like, what? You're crazy? Like,
yeah, you start basically arguing.
Yeah, but like across the board, there are so many different creators of different anime stories and films and TV shows, and yet consistently across the board, they are able to show, not tell.
It's beautiful.
It's awesome. It's absolutely spectacular. And I feel like anyone who is wanting to figure out how to do that better in your own writing, in your own storytelling, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a student trying to learn that, whoever, watch anime. Freaking watch anime, guys. Like, that's how to do it. They have it figured out to a science. I don't know how they do it, but it's magical.
And it's not just there's just a lot of factors that go into it. Not only is it beautifully animated, drawn and everything, but there's music that goes into it that really draws you in. The actors that try to portray the right emotions, that takes skill to do with just your voice box. It is a lot harder to act with a microphone rather than on television.
I could talk for days about my admiration for and love for voice actors. Like, days and days and days. Like, we're already
that's a
on
different
a tangent,
topic. That's a different
we're already
topic.
on such a tangent. But like, oh my word,
there's a lot of things that go into it that makes it so beautiful.
It's incredible, and it's part of why I feel like it's such a disservice to the genre of anime for people to look at it and think, oh, it's just a silly kids show. Oh, it's so violent, I'm not gonna watch those. Oh, it's all just porn. Oh, it's all just that's just Avatar, The Last Airbender, I'm not gonna watch that. Like, it's just such a disservice to write off the entire genre based off of one either bad experience or silly experience or whatever. Like, guys, if you want recommendations, we'll give them to you. Like, I want to roll the dice again, but probably what we should do at the end of this episode is maybe like give some people some recommendations because legitimately, guys, just like anything, right? Just like any like TV shows, anything, like if there's stuff that you're concerned about content or whatever, like get some good recommendations.
Ask around.
Like, I just did an episode with one of my friends where we were talking about books and how to discover new authors. Asking your friends for good recommendations to find new authors. If you're trying to discover good anime that isn't going to be too violent or be offensive if you're worried about language and you have like young kids or things like that, just ask people who are familiar with the genre, because there are so many incredible artists out there. There are so many good stories out there. Like, guys, there are animes that I have watched that have made me a better person.
Right? Well, not just a better, like for me, it made me find more strength.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a category in what do you call it? It's not psychology. What's the opposite of psychology? Therapy. There we go. That's the word.
Yeah.
That you use anime for self-therapy.
Yeah.
And I've used that a lot to get me through a lot of hard times.
There are lessons I think you can take away in like good music, good books, good movies. Like, there's a lot we can learn from life, right? If we're open to the messages that life has for us. And like 100% yes. Like the one I talked about before, Drifting Home. There were things I took out of that like are going to be with me for my whole life.
Yeah. There's some things that it just stays with you.
Yeah.
And then I've got a lot of those.
Yeah.
All right. What's the next question, Katie?
Let's roll the dice.
We keep going off.
30 minutes into this episode and we're just going. 19. See,
wow.
like, that's how you roll the dice.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Anime is not just a style of animation. How would you define it? How is this art, storytelling, filmmaking style different from others? I think we've kind of already...
We've basically covered that.
We've already been hitting on it really, really well. For me, it harkens back to the core of this is the difference between, like, entertainment and we're telling a story. And at the core of it, there's a heart of a depth of emotion, a depth of like feeling and life and breadth and depth that really moves with you through the story. I really liked that you talked about showing, not telling. Even in some of those like the really goofy ones, like I think of like my brothers really liked like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like growing up.
Yeah.
Even those, right? Even those like early on ones that were more of the entertainment side, right? There was still a lot of show not tell, right? There was still a lot of like strong emotions that were shown and good life lessons and things like that. You know, even in weird ones.
Yeah.
Even in some of the weird ones. So like, or like in Sailor Moon and stuff like that, you know? Like,
Oh my gosh.
So I feel like it kind of harkens back to that like core.
Yeah. My definition of anime is anything that represents the Japanese animation style.
Yes.
But not all styles. You know, like for example, a really, really great example is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Avatar's a beautiful example of it, for sure.
It's Western animation.
It is.
However, it has more of the Japanese influence of storytelling, as well as some of the expressions that are found in Avatar: The Last Airbender. In expressions that you see in most typical anime.
Yeah. Kind of the way they anytime they're going to show like any dramatic emotion, or like if they're going to be in combat, or they have their like little power-up scenes. I love those. They're so silly. But it's great. And then they'll have like these scenes that suddenly become like so intense and serious and deep. And then they go right back to being this funny little lighthearted, cute show, and you're just like, what am I watching?
Yep.
Like, what is this? And it's just a roller coaster. Like, whoa. And that's very much an anime, where you're like, what did I just watch? Like, decide what genre you are, and you're like, we're all of them all of the time. Why do we have to decide? I think that's what it is.
17.
17, there you go. See? I find adults who enjoy anime tend to be more familiar with other aspects of the film industry than other people who are missing out, like knowing voice actors, writers, and producers. Do you have a particular voice actor, artist, writer, etc. that you follow in particular?
I don't follow anyone.
Okay, that's fine.
However, there is one voice actor that I want to meet in person. And the reason for that is because it was actually, I believe, his first anime gig. His first role. And there's a lot of things that...
So basically, like, if he ever shows up to FanX, you're probably gonna, like, lose your mind.
Yeah.
Who is it?
His name is Justin Cook. So he, in my opinion, he is the first voice actor that really opened my eyes in how characters should be brought to life. He's his first voice acting gig is in Yu Yu Hakusho. Yusuke Urameshi. He's the main character.
Yeah.
And the way that he played him, I really related to him. Generally, when you hear like and back in the 90s, that's late 80s, early 90s. That's when Yu Yu Hakusho came out. Mm-hmm. And in that era, some of the better voice actors were starting to pop up, and some of the better animations were starting to get in and everything.
Time for
there was a lot of things that allowed basically the U.S. to be opened to anime. Mm-hmm. And so this show, which was really funny how I came across it. I was actually looking for a different anime, which back then I didn't know what anime was.
You were just
one of my friends was like,
this cool show.
No, one of my friends was like, hey, there's this cool show called, and I couldn't remember the name of it, but the name is actually Trigun. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me about it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And he told me it comes on at this certain time. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I turned on
back in the day, you had to like keep track of what time your show came on. Okay? And it was only on at a certain time on a certain day. And if you missed it, that was the end of the freaking world. And that was it.
You had to guess what happened.
Yeah.
Which sucked.
If you were lucky, there would be like a replay on another day of the week if you were lucky. And that was if it was like a really popular show.
And if they actually, the next episode if they actually had a recap.
Or if they had a recap. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. And if it was, like, a really important episode and you missed it.
Oh, my
and you
gosh,
saw
it
that something in
sucked,
the freaking recap and you were like, wait, what?
They
like,
did what?
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so...
Those were the days.
I turned on the channel and this show started going on, and it was the first season of Yu Yu Hakusho. I believe it was probably closer to episode 12, 13. I want to say closer to 14.
Yeah.
This is when they start going in. It's still the first season. They start going into May's castle, and they start going up against Byakko, which is like the second Satan beast there. Mm-hmm. And I was just very intrigued.
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa, this is really cool.
What is this?
And then I just started trying to figure out, okay, what's the name of the show? What? How do you say this?
This is such a weird, like,
yeah.
how do you say these names?
Yeah.
Who are these
and
people?
So,
like, yeah.
And that in that particular episode, it was more about Kuwabara, who's Yusuke's, well, at the time, not really a friend, more like an acquaintance, rival. And then with time, I started to saw more of Yusuke Urameshi coming out, and the way that the actor portrayed him, he's just like, oh wow, I can actually be friends with this kid, you know?
Yeah.
And his anime scream, because you know there's always an anime scream.
Oh yeah.
Felt real. It didn't felt like.
It didn't feel like
this is my power up moment.
This is your power up moment.
No, it's like
pre-recorded, like one copy pasted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
His was very unique
like real
to the situation. It was essentially real every time, and depending on what's going on, you can hear the pain
and the passion
in the scream,
the intensity,
which the best one to actually compare is like Dragon Ball Z, because like Dragon Ball Z is all you hear is nothing but screaming. It's nothing but screaming.
My brothers also freaking loved that show, and I have distinctive memories of like walking by on Saturday mornings and literally just seeing like yellow, blue, orange, and screams.
That's all you hear is just scream. It's just the scream.
Yeah.
Whereas in Yu Yu Hakusho, you hear Yusuke Urameshi, Justin Cook, actually portraying a genuine hurt scream or like I need to dig deeper type of a scream. Like he has different screams, and it was unique to that scenario.
I love that.
And it just like. It hit me pretty darn good, and it just like, oh man, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And so basically my standard now has been set by Justin Cook, and so that specific anime, Yu Yu Hakusho, got me through a lot of things through my childhood, as well as even up to now.
Yeah. Kind of fall back.
There was exactly. Yeah. There's a specific, when I was a kid, there's a specific scenario where I was, I played a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was the better goalkeeper in my town for my age.
Not to brag or anything, but...
Well, granted, there was like maybe 50 of us in the town.
Fair.
So like...
there weren't
really anyone.
You had enough to make a team. That's funny.
And I remember we were a tournament down in Cedar City.
Yeah.
And in this specific tournament, the referee was being a dick.
Oh, no.
Sorry, pardon my language there, but
the truth comes out.
The referee was
he was the worst.
He was one of the worst refs I've ever seen.
Oh gosh.
And he made the game last almost 15 minutes longer than it should.
What the heck?
And my dad, at the time, I guess not necessarily at the time. But back when we used to live in California, he was president of the Southern California Referees Soccer Association. So like, he knew
what was up.
He knew what was up.
Oh shoot!
And so when the referee just was not basically doing well. My dad was like, "Hey, ref, come on, man."
He was like, "Gotta
So
step
he was
it
just,
up, buddy."
and then I saw the referee kick my dad out, and I'm like, "What is going on?"
Shoot.
And at the time, diving for the ball was actually not my forte. It was a skill that I never really developed.
Okay.
And what I remember in my mind, and there's a specific scene in Yu Yu Hakusho where Yusuke is participating in the Dark Tournament, and this is like a really big. It's the core of Yu Yu Hakusho.
It's like this whole thing. Everything's building up.
Yeah, it's part of this tournament, and he's fighting against a character called Jin, and he's just he's a wonderful character. I really love him. And they fight against each other, and there's a specific move that Yusuke never really learned.
Oh no.
And he's like basically saying, "Okay, even if I don't know how to use it,
I have to."
He doesn't even say I have to.
Oh no.
He just says, "Even if I don't know how to use it." And so like, and he basically was able to execute the technique.
Dang.
And technically, that technique, if done improperly, can really kill you.
Oh no!
And
it can
so
really mess you up.
yeah, it can really mess you up. Like so it's either do or die, type of scenario.
Like,
and
do or do not.
so
There's no try.
I remember those words coming to my mind, like even if I don't know. And that game was my best goalkeeping game. I dove for every ball. Nothing got through to me. And we made it so that my team was able to tie and we can go to penalty shootouts. And so, and we lost in penalty shootouts because I chose not to be the goalkeeper, which I should have been the goalkeeper. But but it was because of his Justin Cook's voice and the way that he said it. Like there was some fear behind it, but like he was like but like he still has to do it.
He has to do it.
And so that's why that's the one voice actor I really want to meet in person, just to thank him for doing his absolute best in portraying the character the way it should be.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of information when he first got the gig and everything, and he wanted to make sure that he portrayed that character the best that it needs to be, and so he read through the entire manga.
So that he could fully be this character.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that to life for people.
And I think he was like 19 when he got it or something.
Wow.
He was just basically just starting out. He wasn't even trying to be a voice actor. He was just helping.
Trying to be a person.
Yeah, he was just helping with the whole animation stuff.
Yeah.
And then they were auditioning, and he came in and he nailed it. And
dude, that freaking gave me chills.
But that's how I felt the entire time watching the series with his voice, and he just does a wonderful job of just bringing it out. And so that's one of the people I really want to meet.
If you're listening, let us know where you're gonna be at FanX or something, dude. Juan needs to meet you. That's amazing. No, that's a 7.
That's a 7.
That's
okay.
a 7. Don't
It looked like a 1 to me.
The 1 is right next to it, though. We got pretty close.
That's because the little ledge was like blocking off my view, so it looked like a 1 to me.
Saved by the little fence there. Anime is a film style that has evolved tremendously over the years. What are some pivotal pieces you feel like has helped define this art form? Ooh, man. Who came up with these questions? Dang. I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question, honestly. Like, I feel like I could put in my 2 cents a little bit. I'd be curious to know, because I do feel like you're the expert at this table. When it comes to, like...
Okay, alright. If you're painting it that way, yes.
Like, I do feel like... Studio Ghibli, obviously, defining.
It's very, very beautiful.
Yeah. As far as, like, your like, classic, beautiful, sweeping, like, watercolor, landscape, classic anime. Studio Ghibli. I always think of that. When I think of,
If you want the prettiest bow,
yeah,
it is for sure
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is, in my opinion,
like a
it
warm,
is the highest
Yeah.
standard.
like, yeah, it's like, okay, if recommendations, guys, if you need to introduce somebody to anime and you want something really warm, cozy, fuzzy, and gorgeous, there you go. There you go.
Studio Ghibli is a company. It's not an anime.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for those that
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
they produce a lot of great animated movies.
Yes.
Because they are movies.
They are. They are movies.
But they are the most
Just gorgeous.
beautiful animations, as well
Yeah.
as great storytelling as well.
The music is like just
It's beautiful.
the whole thing is you feel like you've just walked into like a Rembrandt painting.
Yeah.
That's come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just warm and wholesome and lovely. And then you walk out again and you're like, oh yeah. Oh darn. So I feel like as far as defining the like beautiful potential of just like anime, that's them. And they will always own that side.
We hope.
We hope. Probably. And like, that's not to say that other anime producers aren't also very beautiful. But like, they're freaking amazing. I feel like Avatar: The Last Airbender has its own like little kingdom, its own cult following, like defined many people's childhoods and everything. And yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it depends on the era
Yeah.
that you were born in.
Yeah.
And the era when you started watching.
Yeah.
So for me, I started watching anime when I basically moved to Utah, and that was when I was 7 years old.
Oh, you were just a little baby.
My first anime that I got introduced, quote unquote, was Dragon Ball Z. So as a young,
Very much a classic. I would consider like
but like
Taro, Dragon Ball Z, like they start to all blur together, and they're all like the ones that yell at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just watch it for the fighting scenes and for the screaming. That's really what you watch it for. Not necessarily for the storyline.
Is there a storyline?
For Dragon Ball Z, actually there is.
Is there though?
It's just the problem is that there's a lot of filler episodes to
There
get to
was
the point.
so much.
So,
Like, you could, like,
let me educate a little bit more into this. Okay. So Dragon Ball Z has the most iconic transformation that unfortunately almost every series that is going with that type of anime also has some type of transformation. It is amazing. It is like jaw-breaking.
Yeah.
But nothing is going to beat the OG. And that is
No.
Goku turning into Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
That first transformation.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of episodes, and I mean a lot of episodes, of getting to the point where he actually transformed.
Yeah.
And so every, most of the series out there basically has a callback, unbeknownst to them, because everyone wants to have some type of transformation. It's a callback to Goku turning into a Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so...
And never be able to, like, one-up that ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you can't one-up it. Even though there's, like, several different transformations out there, several different styles, it's still a transformation.
Yeah.
And so, callback to Goku transforming from a regular person into a golden person. Ooh. So that, in my opinion, is like the defining arc in, I'll dare say all of anime.
I would say yes. And, like, go ahead, come at us, guys. But, like, if you look at that, and then you look at the history of anime, especially action anime, and setting, like, aside some of the more drama animes, but, like, even look at the animation style and how you have the little power-up scenes and stuff. Like, it harkens back to that time period and how they did their little power-ups and stuff in those, like, core. They started it. They did.
Well, they were able to popularize it.
Yes. They started it. And they made it cool, and they made it, like, the thing to do, and how it was done, and what was done, and, like, the, like, oh my gosh, and yeah. Those shows, my word.
Okay. Is that an actual one? Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Okay. Do I even want to know?
The live action.
Oh no.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Here we have it, folks. Juan's thoughts and feelings. I will make sure that I put for those of you who have not watched it at this point, late in the game on Netflix, make sure I put a spoiler alert on this episode. Thoughts and feelings, Juan?
Very complicated. Here's why.
Okay.
If you watch the animated series, some of the fan base hates it.
I don't care about them. I want to know about.
I'm
Okay.
portraying everything.
Okay.
Of
Okay.
what my feelings
Just
are.
your whole.
Because I'm actually conflicted.
Okay.
And so, as a fan
Yeah.
of Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Yeah.
the animated series,
Yeah, the animated series.
I didn't enjoy it.
Oh no.
If you remove that out of the equation,
Okay.
I actually did enjoy
Okay, so
it.
if it was standing alone.
If it's a standalone, it didn't have its own animated
standalone,
series.
if the animated series didn't exist and you were just watching it blind to the fact that it came from this other thing.
I would have enjoyed it.
Okay.
There's just a lot of things.
The journey on his face, you guys.
I understand that you can't create a live action and make it scene by scene the same of an anime series.
It's very true.
I understand that.
Okay.
And most people don't.
This is a safe space, Juan.
And the way that I've seen how the live action was portrayed, it was a great first episode and a great last episode. Yeah. I did not like what was in between.
Okay.
There are some things that I find that was just, you're just doing a fan service there. You're just like making the fan base happy by throwing these things on.
We like threw this in and threw that in.
And then there were some things, it's like where they were putting stuff together, which I understand you're trying to save time and everything. But you're just throwing it together.
There's a lot of episodes they had to get
through.
through.
You didn't understand why that was happening.
Yeah.
And so you can see essentially where the better storytelling is when they derived it directly from the series, the animated series, versus what the directors or the writers, in my opinion, thought was best. And unfortunately, they weren't seeing the real picture of the animated series. Yeah. So, if I hadn't watched the animated series, I think I would have loved it.
Yeah.
But since I have watched it and understands, what I think my interpretation of their core principles are, it just was not the same. My biggest beef, really, is how they presented the characters.
Oh, really?
So Uncle Iroh was good.
Okay.
Was good.
Okay. I
Okay.
was like, don't
It
hate
was
on my boy. Don't hate on my boy.
And you can see the actor that portrays Uncle Iroh.
Oh my gosh.
He knew
the weight
burden
that he was carrying. Like, I feel like all of them knew when they were being chosen and when they were casting these characters. They knew. And especially I feel like Aang, Iroh, and Zuko knew.
I felt like the guy that played Zuko, that actor, spot on.
Oh my gosh.
Spot on. He, out of all those group of actors, he was spot on.
Love him.
He did a great job portraying the Zuko from the animated series.
Like, oh, holy crap. Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, right.
Like, I feel like what they did was actually like copy pasted.
Yeah.
Like, oh my.
He did a beautiful job.
Like, oh my gosh, method acting to the T. Like,
however he did it.
Dang, son.
He did an amazing job.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, oh.
The actor that portrayed Aang, he did his best.
It's hard.
And you can see that he was trying his best
so hard
with the words that he received, with the script that he received.
Yeah.
I think he would have done a lot better if it was a
slightly different script. I agree with that.
I don't like how they wrote up the character Katana.
Yeah.
I don't personally, just because if you watch the animated series, she has a very large progression.
She does.
And what I saw is that they've shortened that progression and didn't really do it justice. They got her basically the end of the animated series Katara.
Yeah.
Too fast.
Yeah.
And so that's my personal beef with that one.
Yeah.
And the actor that played Zuko, I mean, I don't know how else you can portray Zuko the way that he did. Because Zuko works... no, sorry, not Zuko.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
You mean...
what's his
Sokka?
name? Sokka. I meant to say Sokka.
Yeah,
No disservice to Zuko. I love the guy who did Zuko.
It was perfect.
Sokka. The guy that played Sokka. I don't think you can bring Sokka into live action very well. He works best in the animated world.
That's a really tough character because he is so... He's
the complicated
He is so
relief.
cartoony. Like, he is so cartoony. He is a cartoony... comedic relief character that does go through his own little hero's journey.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love him, actually. When I first watched the series as a kid, I was actually annoyed by him because he reminded me of my own brothers too much.
Which is great, because that's what it's supposed to do.
Intentional. Yeah, that's absolutely intentional. And then watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, they wrote him so well because he's such a teenage boy. And then he goes through this growth and development that you're like, oh my gosh. He's written so well, but then trying to turn that into a real person because he is so kind of cartoony. I feel like the casting choice with how he looks and how he's costumed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was amazing. I will give credit to that.
Yeah, when he walked onto the screen, my jaw hit the floor. Hit the absolute floor. I was like, where did they find Sokka? Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa. No, and I don't mean this in a negative way. Holy crap, they casted everybody so well. They look just like themselves. Whoa. I visually, visually, that whole thing was absolutely mind-bogglingly stunning. And especially the casting and the costuming. And Sokka, when he walked onto the screen and had that stupid blank face look that Sokka always has. Oh my gosh, that kid. He absolutely captures the look of Sokka in every scene. Like, acting aside, however you feel about Sokka, like, he looks like Sokka. Oh my gosh, he looks like Sokka. Sounds like Sokka, even has that stupid little squeaky voice like Sokka. I love him. I freaking loved him. But Sokka's hard to bring into the real world because, and like, he hits differently too. As an adult, if you like rewatch it, you're like, man, he's really misogynistic. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
Some of those jokes hit a little differently now. And you're just like, are we allowed to make those jokes now, Sokka? Like, is that okay for you to say out loud? Like, ooh. But his journey that he goes on, I really appreciate. But definitely a tougher character to play. He was not handed an easy one.
No, in my opinion, he's definitely the toughest character to portray.
Yeah.
Because comedy is the hardest genre to act, in my opinion. And even though the actor is very, very well talented.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That specific Sokka character, you can't bring it out in live action, in my opinion. Even though he did a great job.
Gorgeous job. Absolutely gorgeous job. I still am 100% behind him the whole way. But Sokka is fully a cartoon.
Yes.
Fully a cartoon. I don't know how he looks like him. I'm pretty sure it's black magic. Like,
probably.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's black magic, but dang. Dang. Is there anything else you need to rant about?
No.
Okay.
I don't
feel like that was as bad as you think it was.
It's just very conflicting.
Yeah, that's
It's just very, very conflicting. Because, like, in one side, I did enjoy it, but the other side, like, I didn't enjoy it at all. Just because the part that I didn't enjoy, and the reason why I'm able to summarize it so much, because I had so many different conversations.
Because you've talked about it so much.
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
It's just a great, it's a great animated series. And it's with a lot of great principles.
Yeah.
The live action, great movie style. I really respect it. I just think they missed the core principles of the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender animated series.
Yeah. I think anytime you're taking anything that has been around as long and has had the like following and the history that something like Avatar: The Last Airbender has had, and tried to make it into a shorter live action film, you're gonna lose stuff.
Well, there was an article that I read about what was missing in the live action.
Yeah.
And what was actually missing was a filler episode.
Like which one?
Like,
there's
what,
a lot.
What I'm referring to is that the sometimes the purpose of the filler episode is just to fill things in, obviously.
Yeah.
But the other times is for character growth and development.
Yeah.
And that's what they were missing.
Yeah.
And I agree with whoever wrote the article that they were missing that filler episode because it was just nonstop. And they were in my opinion, they were rushing it through the entire process. And I can see why they're rushing it because they are, on a very, very tight budget.
It's a tight budget. It's a tight schedule.
I mean, there's just a lot of things.
We've kind of talked about on my podcast before with anything in, like, media nowadays where you, like, we're pushing them. We're pushing them to get games out, to get shows out. And as much as it's like, oh, we have all these great shows, we have all these great products, like, all this stuff is really awesome, we're being shortchanged.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the producers, it's not fair to the artists, it's also not fair to ourselves. And, like, we get problems like this.
Exactly. And so having that filler episode just slows things down. And that's... If they were half if they happen to have that filler episode, I think I would have been 100% for the live action.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting. Well, guys, Juan and I are massive nerds. And we could talk about anime forever. But this is all we have time to talk about today. But we will talk at you later.